Your car is bleeding money through problems that will never trigger a warning light, and the U.S. Department of Energy has the number to prove it. A faulty oxygen sensor can cost you up to 40% of your fuel economy, which at today's prices means you could be throwing away $500 a year, while your dashboard shows nothing but green lights. What you're about to learn is everything the service advisor hopes you never figure out, because informed customers don't pay $300 to fix problems that cost $10 to solve at home. These are the hidden fuel killers lurking in 2005 to 2025 vehicles. The sensors that fail silently, the maintenance issues nobody links to gas mileage, and the myths that shops exploit to upsell repairs that physics says can't possibly help. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to find these problems yourself, which ones you can fix in your driveway, and which sales pitches to walk away from. Two sensors cause more silent fuel waste than everything else combined, and the first one lives right behind your air filter. Your mass airflow sensor tells the computer exactly how much air is entering the engine, so it can calculate the perfect amount of fuel to inject. Contamination builds up on the sensing element over time, and when that happens, the sensor starts lying. It reports less air than actually exists. The computer responds by dumping in extra fuel, and your engine runs rich without knowing anything is wrong. You burn gas you don't need, your wallet gets lighter, and your check engine light stays off because technically nothing has failed. The reason you never see a warning comes down to something called fuel trim, which is your engine's way of making small corrections on the fly. Normal fuel trim stays within plus or minus 10% of the programmed fuel amount, and your check engine light doesn't illuminate until fuel trim exceeds 25%. A contaminated MAF sensor can push your fuel trim to 15 or even 20%, which means you're wasting a significant chunk of fuel while the computer considers everything normal. That range between 15 and 25% is the silent zone, the dead spot where efficiency dies but no alarm sounds. Millions of vehicles are parked in that zone right now while their owners have no idea. Real-world examples show 5 to 10% fuel economy loss from MAF sensors that haven't technically failed. One BMW owner documented their mileage climbing from 16.5 to over 18 miles per gallon after a MAF replacement. Nearly a 10% jump that translates to about $200 in annual fuel savings. That money was vanishing every year without a single symptom the driver could feel. Most shops will quote you $250 to $300 to replace a MAF sensor, and dealerships can charge over $800. What they rarely mention is that MAF sensors can often be cleaned instead of replaced, and a can of CMAF sensor cleaner costs about $12. You remove the sensor, spray the element without touching it, let it dry, and reinstall. The entire job takes 15 minutes and requires no tools beyond a screwdriver. Brake cleaner will destroy the sensor, and carburetor cleaner is too harsh, so use only dedicated MAF cleaner, or you'll create the expensive problem you were trying to avoid. When cleaning works but symptoms return within a few weeks, replacement becomes necessary, and aftermarket sensors from quality brands run $100 to $230. Even at the high end, you'll recover that cost within 18 months from fuel savings alone, and a $12 cleaning might buy you another year before replacement becomes unavoidable. The second silent killer has federal research behind it, and it's probably been costing you money since before you bought the car. Oxygen sensors read the exhaust gases and tell the computer whether the engine is running rich or lean, so it can adjust in real time. When these sensors age, they don't fail dramatically. They just get slow. A healthy O2 sensor switches between rich and lean readings more than once per second, but a tired sensor might take 2 or 3 seconds to respond. The computer can't make accurate adjustments with delayed information, so it defaults to running rich as a protective measure. You burn extra fuel as a safety margin against a problem that doesn't actually exist. The Department of Energy puts the potential improvement from fixing a faulty O2 sensor at up to 40%, though that represents complete sensor failure. Bosch, one of the world's largest sensor manufacturers, tested partially degraded sensors and measured around 15% increase in fuel consumption. For a vehicle averaging 23.5 miles per gallon and driving 9,000 miles annually, degraded oxygen sensors waste about 51 gallons of fuel per year. That's $180 disappearing into the exhaust pipe while the car runs perfectly and passes inspection. Your OBD2 system monitors oxygen sensors for complete failures and electrical faults, but it cannot detect gradual sensitivity loss, minor calibration drift, or slightly slower response times. The sensor has to deteriorate significantly before any code appears, and by that point, you've already lost hundreds of dollars in fuel over months or years. Service writers don't explain this because they can't bill for problems that don't throw codes, which means the diagnosis you need is the one nobody offers. Bosch recommends O2 sensor replacement every 100,000 miles on modern vehicles, and if your car has crossed that threshold without new sensors, you're almost certainly paying a fuel penalty right now. One distinction protects you from a common upsell. Upstream oxygen sensors sit before the catalytic converter and directly control fuel mixture, which means they absolutely affect your gas mileage. Downstream sensors sit after the converter and exist only to monitor converter efficiency, which means they have zero impact on fuel economy. None. If anyone claims a downstream O2 sensor is hurting your mileage, they either don't understand the system or they're hoping you don't. Either way, walk out and find a different shop. The sensors get the headlines, but a collection of smaller problems can stack up to steal just as much fuel without ever making the car feel wrong. Tire pressure is the easiest to fix and the easiest to ignore. The Department of Energy confirms that proper inflation improves fuel economy by 0.6 to 3%, and Oak Ridge National Laboratory found that tires at half their recommended pressure lose 5 to 10% efficiency. Every PSI below spec costs you 0.2% fuel economy, which sounds tiny until you realize most people run 5 to 10 PSI low without knowing it. Your tire pressure monitoring system was designed by federal regulators concerned with blowouts, not efficiency. The warning light illuminates when pressure drops 25% below the recommended number, which means if your tires should hold 35 psi, you won't see a light until you're down around 26. By that point, you've been hemorrhaging fuel economy for weeks or months, losing 5 to 7% efficiency, while trusting a system that was never built to protect your wallet. The Department of Energy estimates that underinflated tires waste 3.56 million gallons of gasoline every single day across the United States. And most of those drivers assume their tires are fine because no light came on. Tires naturally lose 1 to 2 psi per month through the rubber itself, which means monthly pressure checks with a $2 gauge prevent a problem that no dashboard warning will catch in time. Dragging brakes hide even better because there's no sensor monitoring them at all. When a caliper, sticks, or slide pins seize, the brake pads maintain constant contact with the rotor, and your engine fights that friction every mile you drive. Temperature builds, fuel burns, and nothing alerts you to the problem. Owners have documented jaw-dropping recoveries after discovering stuck calipers, including a Viaba TDI that jumped from 42 to 50 miles per gallon and an F250 diesel that climbed from the mid-teens to over 21. Those drivers had no idea anything was wrong until they checked. Testing takes 10 minutes with a $20 infrared thermometer. Drive normally for 5 or 10 minutes without using the brakes, then measure the temperature at each wheel. Normal rotors run around 165 to 200 degrees, while a dragging brake climbs above 300. If one wheel measures significantly hotter than the others, you've found your problem. A thermostat stuck in the open position keeps coolant flowing constantly, which means your engine never reaches operating temperature. The computer sees a cold engine and stays in open loop mode, continuously enriching the fuel mixture as if you just started the car. Some drivers commute for 30 minutes in what the computer thinks is warm-up mode, burning 10 to 30% extra fuel the entire way. Watch your temperature gauge and confirm it reaches the normal range within 15 minutes of driving, because weak cabin heat and a needle that never climbs usually point to a thermostat that costs $50 to replace. Exhaust leaks upstream of the oxygen sensor create phantom problems the computer tries to solve with real fuel. When outside air enters the exhaust stream before reaching the sensor reads excess oxygen and reports a lean condition. The computer responds by adding fuel to correct a problem that never existed, which means you're running rich to compensate for a crack or gasket failure. Listen for ticking on cold starts that fades as the engine warms, and look for black soot trails around manifold connections. Fuel injector deposits have peer-reviewed numbers behind them. An SAE technical paper from 2022 tested 7 gasoline direct injection vehicles with low mileage and found up to 2.7% fuel economy loss from deposit buildup, even with fuel that met EPA additive requirements. Over-the-counter cleaners actually work, with consumer-grade products showing 87 to 90% effectiveness in controlled testing. Chevron Techron contains 10 to 20% PEA, the active cleaning compound, while Redline SI1 contains 30 to 40%. A $15 bottle every few thousand miles prevents buildup that eventually requires professional cleaning. The fuel you choose matters more than most people realize, and in completely different ways than the marketing suggests. A8A tested top-tier gasoline against non-top-tier brands and found that after just 4,000 miles of simulated driving, non-top-tier fuel produced 19 times more engine deposits. The numbers were 34 milligrams average for top tier versus 660 milligrams for non-top tier, a difference that eventually causes rough idle, hesitation, and 2 to 4% fuel economy loss. Top-tier certification costs gas stations money, which is why budget stations skip it, but the price difference at the pump averages only 3 cents per gallon. Shell, Chevron, Exxon, Mobil, Costco, Marathon, Phillips 66, Valero, and Quick Trip all carry top-tier certification, and AAA found that switching to top tier can actually reverse some existing deposit buildup over a few thousand miles. Premium gasoline is where Americans collectively light $2.1 billion on fire every year. AOAA tracked fuel purchases and found 16.5 million drivers bought premium for vehicles that don't require it, and 70% of vehicles on the road need only regular. The Federal Trade Commission states plainly that using higher octane than your owner's manual recommends provides absolutely no benefit. Premium doesn't clean better, burn cleaner, add power, or improve mileage in engines designed for regular. Octane rating indicates resistance to pre-ignition, nothing more, and if your manual says regular, then premium is pure waste. Spend those 40 extra cents per gallon on top-tier regular instead, and you'll actually get something for your money. Now, for the myth that refuses to die, the one quick lube shops weaponize every day because it sounds so reasonable. A clogged air filter hurts fuel economy on older carbureted engines, but Oak Ridge National Laboratory tested modern fuel-injected vehicles and found no significant fuel economy impact from severely restricted filters. The reason comes down to how the systems work. Your MAF sensor measures actual incoming air, and when a dirty filter restricts flow, the sensor reports less air, and the computer injects proportionally less fuel. The ratio stays correct even with a filthy filter, which means fuel economy holds steady. What suffers is maximum power and acceleration, not efficiency. The Department of Energy published their position in 2009, and it hasn't changed. Replacing a clogged air filter improves performance but has no measurable effect on fuel economy in modern vehicles. Change your filter when it's dirty because throttle response matters, but don't let anyone charge you $40 for a filter while promising fuel savings that the laws of physics say won't happen. Finding these problems yourself requires one tool that pays for itself immediately. A basic OBD2 scanner with live data capability runs about $100, and it shows you everything the warning lights hide. MAF sensor output should roughly match your engine displacement at idle, so a 2-liter engine should read around 2 to 3 grams per second. Acceleration should produce a smooth increase, and any jumpiness or flat spots indicates contamination or failure. Fuel trim values reveal the silent zone in real time. Short-term and long-term fuel trim should both stay within plus or minus 5% during normal driving. Values beyond 10% on either side mean something is pushing the mixture off target, and combined values beyond 20% indicate serious fuel waste happening right now without any warning light. Oxygen sensor voltage at 2000 RPM should cycle rapidly between 0.1 and 0.9 volts, switching more than once per second. Slow cycling, stuck readings, or voltage that never drops below 0.3. or rises above 0.7 points to a degraded sensor, bleeding your fuel budget. Check tire pressure monthly with a gauge instead of waiting for a light designed for emergencies. Test brake temperatures after driving without stopping. Watch your temperature gauge climb to normal within 15 minutes. These 5-minute checks catch problems that sophisticated diagnostics miss because nobody programmed a warning for them. Everything in this video stacks: 40% from a failed oxygen sensor, 5 to 10% from a contaminated MAF, 2 to 4% from non-TOPTIER fuel, 3% from low tire pressure, unknown percentages from dragging brakes, stuck thermostats, exhaust leaks, and dirty injectors, all running simultaneously on cars that feel completely normal. The driver with 25 mile per gallon efficiency, who should be getting 30, doesn't notice anything wrong. The car starts instantly, accelerates fine, and never complains. But at the end of the year, 100 extra gallons have burned, $500 or $600 have vanished, and the only evidence is a fuel economy number that seems about right because it's been wrong for so long. Most fuel problems don't trigger lights, throw codes, or make symptoms you can feel. Now you know where they hide, and exactly how to drag them into daylight before they drain another tank.